We are doing a special late night Dream Walk Live podcast. And I am excited to do this one tonight here because our special guest tonight is actually doing this from Hawaii for us here. So we're going to have a great session here. So much to talk about here. So I'm going to introduce you. Her name is Angela Lynn, and she has an amazing career. And as you know, I've been doing a segment on just interviewing individuals who are really like pursuing their dream. And it's just so great to hear the stories of where they started. And, I'm going to let you get to know her and get to know what she does here. And her profession is so interesting. So I'm really going to, divulge more into what she does. Because as much as all of us goes to the movies and things like that, I never really get to talk about stunt work. And this is something I really want to, find out more about. And I'm sure you guys is as well. So she is a stunt woman and she's done several movies and things. So we're going to get into that. But Miss Angela, how are you? Yeah.
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I haven't seen you in forever.
I know, right? This is great.
You're
Our,
traveling, I'm traveling, and I'm like, oh,
right.
I'm saying hello.
Yes. Oh my God. We'll talk about that too because she's done a lot of travel and she's gone to some of places I haven't been, and I want to divulge into that too. But Miss Angela, you want to tell everybody about yourself and your background, where you're from, and then yeah, and we'll talk about also like how we met as well. So, but yeah, we'll get to that
Absolutely.
too.
Absolutely. Yeah, my name is Angela. I'm originally from Washington, D.C. So I'm a native Washingtonian most of my life grew up in Arlington. Um, and essentially, yeah, my career right now for the last decade, more or less, has been in stunt work in the movies, as you know. Um, at first, obviously, it was part time when I was working for the feds, and then
Yeah.
and then became full time after I left and moved to Los Angeles.
Very nice. Now, you know what? Now, because since I've lived in DC, oh my God, and you are one of the rare breeds that I did meet that was a true native Washingtonian that really, you've seen this seismic shift of how DC has changed now versus when you grew up. So, what was it like growing up there back then? Because you grew up in Arlington, you actually grew up next to Sandra Bullock is from Arlington, Katie Couric.
Yep, she went to my high school.
See, absolutely. See, these little things here. This is great here. So, what was it like growing up in Arlington back then?
Well, oh gosh, it's changed so much. It's quite a bit more like um, a smaller DC now.
Okay.
Um, but like Clarendon used to be it was run down. It was like it was seedy. It was pretty dodgy.
Right, right,
You didn't go there like at night type thing. And now Clarendon is like the place to be.
right. It
It's
has.
weird. And like Georgetown was the place to be. Downtown DC, that was the place like we would go clubbing in DC. And now people like 7th Street, Ninth Street, stuff like that. That's like a thing of the past. It's weird. And now everyone's like in Clarendon and they're still in Georgetown, but not as much. And we used to like roll up and down the strip of M Street, like was the main drag, and people would
Right.
go up and down M Street. We had drag races out in the Ardmore exit off of Route 50 in Maryland.
Okay.
In like my freshman, sophomore year in high school, everyone used to get together and go to a place we called Metro, and they would have like drag races. It was a quarter mile,
Oh
and
wow.
people would all meet up there and just and drag race and eventually until the cops showed up and everyone scattered like roaches, and then eventually they put like um speed bumps and stuff like that in, and so
Right.
that was a thing of the past. But yeah, it was so different. It was so different.
Interesting. Now it's funny because when you say Clarendon, and I remember Clarendon quite well because when I first moved to DC, and this was in 2001, just shortly before 9/11, and when I drove through DC and did the tour with my dad, I remember the waterfront only had H2O on the
Oh,
waterfront. Then there was Zanzibar down the street from H2O.
yes,
See,
yes.
right, right. And then me and my dad and family went to the Phillips Seafood that was in between the two. Right. Because as you all know now, for many people who don't know the nation's capital here, Washington, D.C. is definitely known for its seafood. And the wharf right there is where a lot of people go and get some of the best seafood in the nation's capital. So, as I'm taking you back down memory lane here, and when you talk about going over to Clarendon, yes, as soon as your neighborhood gets a Starbucks and a Whole Foods, you have been officially transitioned, okay, and
Yes.
upgraded. Right. Seriously. Okay, so when you say that about Clarendon, I'm having trouble picturing Clarendon that way because I never saw it that way when yeah. So yes, and Clarendon is like a nice little area where you go and there's great bars there. There's a great rooftop I used to love going to when I was living there.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah, I remember.
yes, you see, absolutely. And it's incredible now. And now, if you think about DC now and how much it has metamorphed, I would have never thought there would be a baseball stadium in Southeast DC because everybody told me in Southeast DC when I moved there back then, do not go there. I was like, oh, okay. But there was one night I did happen to go to that part of DC, and there was a club called Nations. You could see it from 395. For the
Yep.
ones who. So I was like, oh, okay, this is interesting. But that was the only time I went over in that section then. Now, um, it is totally transition, I would
Oh yeah.
say.
And Nations was that was like a normal-ish club, but on Thursday nights it got a little
See?
different.
Right.
And then on Club Wet, they had
Yes.
that was a whole different can of
Yes.
worms.
Yes.
Uh, God, they had a strip joint down there too that somebody took me on a date to, which was whatever. That was a whole thing.
Oh, wait a minute. You went on a date at a gentleman's club.
Yeah, he took me
Oh,
to a strip club for a date.
wow. Okay.
He was like, he said he wanted to test me to see how I would react.
Oh.
Needless to say, that was the first and last time I ever went out with him.
Uh, well, you got to give him an A for being outside the box. Oh my God. Okay. I was like,
Matt,
oh, yeah. I mean, forget like let's just go for tea or coffee. How about we
strip
just
club.
really okay. All
Yeah,
righty.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
even though this is a late night podcast, it's not an after dark podcast.
Right,
So,
right.
oh my goodness,
Oh, I've got stories. I've got stories.
I can
Yeah.
just oh my
Oh
gosh.
yeah. I mean, Mac, you how long have you known me? Oh yeah. Oh
Yes,
yeah. 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 Yeah.
exactly. Oh yes. So it literally, and here's the thing: DC, the very first club I ever went to in my life was DC Live on F Street.
Yes, F Street. Yes.
F
Yes.
Street. That I remember that club was across the street. There was a club called Platinum, and then
Yep.
there was a club called Home. Yes,
Home.
right.
Didn't that change? Like all of them, I feel like changed names.
They
F
changed
Street
names.
and Seventh and F, Seventh and Ninth.
Right, they did.
Yeah.
And then if you went around the corner up 7th Street by back then it was called Verizon Center. Yeah, so there was Coco Loco, and that was I was like first time me. Yes, I was like, okay, so now we got the Spanish club. So okay,
Yeah.
so that was the culture back then, and then
Hmm.
in college, I want to say my sophomore year, I did the part time job when Dream opened up in Northeast, and that was the first time.
Dream.
Right, Dream. Right.
Yes.
It's so going back down these crazy memories, and now none of that is what is there. Like it's all different now. So
Yeah, that was like New York Avenue, right? And
New York Avenue.
Bladensburg Road down the way.
Yeah.
You know, Bladensburg Road had this like real dodgy strip club. Hey, that one was a friend of mine worked security there, and I didn't know. It was called the Stadium.
I heard a stadium. I remember. Oh.
That he was like, yeah, come through, because he was one of my best friends growing up. He's
Okay.
like, yeah, I'm running security, just come through. And I came up on my motorcycle,
Okay.
and I had no idea what I was going to. I'd never heard of it. And he walks me in. He's like, I'll introduce you to the team or whatever. I was like, okay, cool.
Right.
As soon as the doors open, I was like,
Oh my god.
oh my God. And, you know, because CCRs, it was a
Right.
far cry from CCRs.
Right. Right.
Very different than CCRs. It was just, yep. I was like, oh, yep. Okay. Moving on. Okay.
Oh my goodness.
I think they got shut down. I think they got shut down because they got raided
Oh
by
really?
the FBI or police or something. Yeah. Like,
Wow. Okay.
yeah.
I'm not surprised at all. Those
No,
were the days, I will say.
absolutely.
Yes, I will definitely say. So let me segue over to here because I really want to hear your story because how you transition, because as we all know, DC is the government hub for all government, well, not all government jobs, but a massive influx of a lot of them. So I know you did government work while you were there. So how did you get into that? What made you start there?
Actually, I was a personal trainer for a long time,
Okay.
right? And probably around the time I met you,
Okay.
I was training people,
Okay.
and I worked at a personal training facility, so not so much golds, but like a
Okay.
facility.
Okay.
And I had a client, and she worked for the government,
Hmm.
and I was going to school, and she was like, well, and she was quite high up in the government,
Yeah.
and she was like, well, you know, if you keep on the same track or whatever, she's like, I'll bring you in. We have a student program. You can come in through the student program. It was called the SCEP program. And I was like, sold. Let's go. And because I was getting my bachelor's of science in environmental and biology and environmental sciences.
Okay.
And yeah, she kind of got me in the program, and the rest was history. And I was there for almost 10 years.
Nice. Very nice. Wow. I will say, you know what? One of the things I definitely want to talk about as well, because when I met you in DC, not only were you doing that, but Angela is into martial arts. So you're a black belt, right? Black belt.
I mean, technically, yeah. I never trained for belts,
Okay.
but yeah,
Okay. Now, because
yeah.
I remember meeting your sensei at the gym. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, I do remember that. And I was like, okay. And I never got into asking you ever, how did you get into martial arts? When did that pique your interest?
Well, I started boxing when I was in high school.
Oh,
Yeah, I
okay.
started boxing when I was about 15 or 16. There was a guy who worked with me at my first job at Toyota,
Ah.
and his name was Bob. And he was an old Golden Gloves boxer. I don't remember his last name, but his name was Bob. He would come in and he would say, young lady, you should box. And I was like, what? You should box. I was like, I mean, okay. And he kept saying it all like over and over. And then one day he was like, come with me. I'll take you to my boxing gym. You need to box, young lady. I said, okay. So he took me to Finley's gym in Northeast DC.
Okay.
It was an old school gym. Mr. Henry ran it. He was adorable, tiny little guy, old. He's probably passed by this point, and the gym's probably gone. But it was like an old school boxing gym. You had to walk upstairs, like a narrow staircase, to get up top to the attic of this place. And
Okay.
when I walked in, the jukebox stopped.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, they were just kind of like, hmm? And I'm like, hi.
Right. Oh my god. Okay. Okay.
And yeah, I mean, and I went in there, and my mom was like, she had forbade me to actually fight because her thing was, I paid for your teeth, and if you mess them up, I'll kill you. So I was like, oh, okay. But I could train, I could spar, but she didn't want me to get in the ring and mess up my teeth
Okay.
that she paid. Forget the brain. Doesn't matter about the brain, just the teeth. So I was like,
Okay. Okay.
all
So,
right, mom.
oh my God, I never knew this. Oh my. So you were an original Ronda Rousey getting ready to do some training in the gym. Okay. Okay. All right. I okay. So and then that's when you segued into learning okay, martial arts. Nice.
Yes, I took a hiatus actually for several years, and then in my early 20s, I got back into boxing, and
Okay.
then went from boxing to kung fu. So once they introduced me to my feet, and I learned how to kick, it was over. I was like, oh, I like kicking. I love kicking. I was very good at kicking. So yeah.
My gosh. All right. This is you know what? I you're the only person and as a female, I've always think that it's really good for women especially to learn some form of self-defense. And this is so important, you know. And I don't hear this enough. And it's really great to hear this. Is was there ever a time that you ever thought about teaching it and helping raising awareness for other women?
Oh, absolutely. I do teach. I do teach. I teach American kickboxing, and I was teaching Kali and Pikiti Tersha, which is like close quarter knife combat.
Okay.
I was doing some self defense seminars for women, but I found that they talked the talk a little bit, like they wanted to, they were about it. I don't, but I just, yeah, it never came to fruition. People would be like, yes, 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 and
Okay.
then not sign up.
Got it.
And I think a lot of them see self defense as like a box you check off. And
Okay.
that's not how self defense works. You can't just take a seminar and all of a sudden you're Ronda Rousey. Like, it doesn't work like that. You have to
Right.
train, right?
Absolutely. Right. Right. Wow.
So yeah,
Okay. All right.
I'm a
Well,
huge advocate for it. Huge, huge. And the pew pews.
well, lady, well, let it be known, everyone. Okay, I highly recommend that. Literally, ladies, please, if you're listening to this, definitely, find someone like Angela, and just at least learn the basics of how to really truly defend yourself. I think that's just incredibly important. Um, but yes, but before we move forward here, because I wanted to ask you this question as a native Washingtonian, and I'm sure a lot of people want to learn this as well. So, and I never investigated this myself. So now that I'm talking to a native Washingtonian, what is the fascination with the mambo sauce? We need to know because this sauce, when I first saw it when I moved to DC, I was like, and now I'm not trying to downplay it or anything like this, but when I first had it, it reminded me of sweet and sour sauce. Maybe it's me, but you know what? Like to hear the native Washingtonian.
Yeah, I don't. It's not my jam.
It's not your jam. Gotcha.
Not my jam. I thought you were going to ask me about go go.
Yes, that was a.
That's my jam. I can talk about go go, but Mambo's all, I could take it or leave it. I don't care.
Okay. Oh, but you know
Yeah.
what? We could segue into some go because you know what? DC go go. Okay, yes. But please share this, Angela. Share us. Like, what
Oh,
is your
go go.
fashion?
I used to be, man, we would go to go go's growing up. we would have house. There would be house parties. There would be house go-go's in South Arlington.
Right, right.
I've been to go-go's in Maryland. I've been to go-go's in DC. I've been to go-go's because, well, as a kid, you can't go to the go-go, right? You can't go to the club, but 15, 16. So we had parties that were go-go's, and one of the boys that I grew up with, dad, his name was Go-Go George, and he would like run them all, and he would set them all up. He was great. He passed away, but God, I remember going to the Go-Go's. They were wild for
Okay.
kids. Like now, I'm just thinking if I had a kid, I'd be like, oh, nah, nah, you can't. Nope. No, you can't go. Absolutely not. The wall, like everything. I mean, basically, it's fornication with clothes on, but like the walls would be wet with sweat. The
Oh.
floor, it was just like a petri dish of bacteria. Yeah, but
Okay.
it was like it was fun. Like we had so much fun, and there's always like, but as an adult going to the go go, like someone's gonna get fucked up. Someone's gonna get something like a bottle over their head or a stool on their head. Like for some reason, I don't know what it is,
Got it.
but when some people hear go go,
Right.
they lose their minds.
Oh,
But there's always gonna be something.
got
Like
it.
you're guaranteed for some action.
Okay.
Oh yeah,
Um, I've never been to a go-go event the whole time I was in DC. I've lived in DC all those years. So
Mac.
I know. I know. I
My
know.
mom rocks to go go.
Love it. Love it. And I know I
She
live
loves it.
okay.
She's just listening to it,
Okay.
bouncing back and forth. It used to come on the radio every Friday.
There was okay. And I do remember, like when I worked in the club, there was a time when, the DJ would have a moment when they would hit some go go for a little bit, which was great. Yeah.
Absolutely. You
Or if
have
you,
to.
yeah, or if you go, I remember one time going to the Merriweather Post Pavilion, and
Wow.
it was one of the DJ there would get the crowd going because I was going to see which artist and I forgot. I think it was Division or someone, and everybody was just literally, oh yeah, you could just feel the energy when they cut that on, and I was like, okay, all right,
Lose your mind. I
right,
was just at the salsa room for Christmas. We had a Christmas party there.
okay,
They put on I think I requested it. I was like, can you put on some go-go? And they put on 4 in the morning. Okay, do you
uh,
remember that one?
right, right,
The
oh yeah,
overnight scenario. The
right.
overnight scenario. So they put that on and I was like, like, and everyone was looking at me like, okay. I'm like, don't let this fool you, my friend. Okay. Don't let it fool you. No, 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 no.
I
I was
love
all
it.
pretty and like pretty princess. And
Right.
then I was like, ah, like people were like, okay,
I love it.
wow.
Oh my god, that's great. But see, that is something that a lot of people, like even going to DC, they always think it's government and politics. There's also a whole nother culture you have to
Oh,
really immerse yourself into. And if you don't, you really kind of miss out. You really do. So
absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely.
I love it. Love it. Um, so, okay. Now that, you know, all these years you've been in DC, now you've decided to really pursue your passion, your dream of stunt work. So I really want to
Hmm.
segue into that and making that bold move of leaving your career there in DC and really following. And this is something a lot of people struggle with is pursuing what their real dreams and goals are. And this is part of what I really wanted to inspire everyone to really do. And I think listening to different people's walks of life of how they did it, and this is why I named this podcast after my first book, is because we all have a dream, we all envision about walking it, and then we all envision about living it. It's just going through that trifecta of getting there. So with you, I want you to tell the story of when you made that ultimate decision to say, you know what, I'm out. I got to go and pursue what I really want to do. I'm packing up. I'm going 3,000 miles away from home, and I'm going to touch the city of angels and making that
Yeah.
transition. Yeah,
Yeah. And leaving my cushy
cushy.
job at the federal government.
Yes,
I
yes.
had it made. I honestly did. I was like, I could
Stay there and
basically
retire.
work here for the rest of my life and retire and just
Right.
everyone. Oh God, I remember people just like, oh yeah, you could be here in the next 30 years. And I was like, that sounds terrible. I would rather jump off a cliff. And I just remember seeing these older people and they're like, yeah, I've been here for 40 years. And I'm just like, by choice?
I know. I know. I know. I know. And it's funny though when I think about that because my uncle did that for 40 years with Department of Defense, and I never really asked him if that was always a dream of his or did he ever want to do something else.
Right.
So, but yeah, so I get it. I heard a lot of people doing it, but yeah,
And it might be people's dreams. And that's cool. Like if that's where you are and that's the pinnacle of everything for you, then great.
right,
But, I never felt like I fit in. People would have these conversations about registrants and they would be talking about
right,
work,
right,
like outside of work.
right,
We're at the bar and they're like, oh, well, this registrant, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, ugh,
right,
are you okay? Like, really? Is that,
right,
do you enjoy this? Like, it's
right,
just, it blew my mind
right.
just because it just was, I felt like a caged animal for the most part, sitting in a cube.
Yeah, yeah.
So, I was doing the stunts part time for many years, and I was flying back and forth, and I was going to LA, and I was training and staying there for a month or so at a time, and
Okay.
I would come back to DC, and I would just be depressed as soon as I walked off the plane,
Mm,
and then one day I was just like, it was just too many times. It was one too many times that I had gone to LA, and I was training and having like meeting people and really living my life and pursuing something that I wanted to do and then coming back and just being like, and I think I did it maybe 4 or 5 times and I was like, I can't do this anymore. I'm not happy.
gotcha.
And I had nothing keeping me in DC, like no husband, no kids. Um, so I was like, screw it. My mom was like, you're gonna resign from the government, like healthcare. She was being a mother and she was being very protective and she didn't think it was necessarily the smartest choice to just resign and
Right.
move across the country chasing a pipe dream.
Gotcha.
But I wasn't happy to my core.
Got it.
And I knew if I didn't try, I would never know. And I guess I was the one child who was just like, screw it. Like,
Gotcha.
I gotta go. I can't do this anymore. I have to legitimately spread my wings. And my instructor that you met, he was pushing me to actually do that. He's like, you gotta spread your wings and you have to fly and you have to do X, Y, and Z.
Right.
So I pretty much just boxed up as much stuff as I needed to take, left everything like my house still looks like my house, like for the most part, all my furniture still there, like
Okay.
all my kitchen stuff is still there. And it's just I boxed up my clothes for the most part and just took off. Just drove. I got a trailer. Unfortunately, my old truck wouldn't make it, so my mechanic was like, "You need to buy a new car," and I was like, "Buy a new car, bro? I resigned from work. I have no income." So
Oh,
I ended up getting a used car, and
okay.
I was like, "All right." My mom helped me move, and we went across the country, and we drove across the country. We unpacked, and then like 3 days later, we flew to New Zealand. Um, that was my second time going. She wanted to go, and because when I had been there many years prior, I'd been there for so long, and I was just like, okay, yeah. And I've got family and I've got friends, and now I have to go every as much as I can. But
Gotcha.
um, yeah, like she didn't necessarily want me to go, but she's. I mean, my mom.
Yeah.
She's always been my fan, and
Yeah.
she's just
Yeah.
the most precious thing to me on the face of the planet. But yeah. So, but boy, moving across the country with no job and a
Yeah.
new car, well, a new used car, and
Hmm.
then having to like, pay rent or in like, and I had to live with 7 people in a house
Oh my God.
in the valley,
Okay.
which was a nightmare for me, because they're all like 20, 21,
Oh,
and I'm like 34.
got it.
And I'm like, yeah, this feels like college. And oh God, like I'd rather staple my eyelids to my forehead than like be like, you know what I mean? Like dorm life. Like, no,
Right.
I'm good.
Right. Right.
I was there, I was in that house for just a short while. I lived in Canoga Park. I lived in uh, North Hills. That was the North Hills house. And then finally,
Okay.
the commute from North Hills to Torrance was killing me. I got a job at UFC Gym Torrance.
Okay.
And I was also teaching martial arts at another school in Torrance.
Okay.
So I was driving from North Hills to Torrance, which is only a 30-minute drive. But as you remember,
Yep.
it could be up to 3 hours.
With LA traffic, and yes,
Yeah.
yes. Okay.
Yeah.
And I will. Okay. So we get back to your story. For those who've never lived in Los Angeles, I've lived there. You live there. If you have not experienced the 405 and that level of traffic, I have never sat in traffic at midnight. I've sat in traffic at midnight in Los Angeles, literally at midnight. And okay, I hear people complain about traffic in Miami and DC and whatever. Okay,
Mm,
move to LA. It will humble you very quickly.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but yes, but now knowing you made that commute to Torrance, because yes, I live not too far from Torrance, right there in Seal Beach, which is not too far up the five. So yeah, and because Torrance is
Yeah.
also near Hawthorne, which because I it's the
Yes.
SpaceX headquarters right there.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
bought my first car living in LA in Torrance. So that's why,
Okay.
yeah, exactly. I certainly did.
Yeah, that's cool. I love, and well, because I moved, so I ended up moving to Redondo Beach. So
Oh,
Torrance was just a 5-minute drive.
okay. All right.
Then I had it made.
Nice.
Still living with other people,
Okay.
but much more peaceful. There was only 3 of us. One was a nurse and one was a mechanic.
Okay.
So I had, it was my own. It was great. It was great. It was only 2 blocks from the beach. It was heaven. Heaven.
Nice. Very nice. So tell me this here. Tell me what was that first experience like on your first movie set? Like being in this, because I know like, well, at least from what I've heard, like the stunt world is very heavily male dominated in that world. So
Oh
you
yeah.
making that adjustment to as a female stunt person, like I'm just very fascinated with this whole apparatus of how this all that works.
It is very male dominated, but as you know, I've been in mostly male dominated
Yeah,
arenas, right? Bodybuilding, martial arts,
yeah.
firearms, motorcycles. So I wasn't, I've been in what I would call the inner sanctum
Okay.
of masculinity for a very long time. But so it wasn't anything out of the blue for me. Um, but even to this day, and being 2025, before I tell you about my first job on set, but it's it's still a good old boy network. It's still male dominated. It's still um, gate kept.
Okay.
Um, and specifically, with me and being a firearms instructor and all that, and having that kind of background and expertise, even with that, I think I've been called one time to do firearm stuff,
Hmm.
like tactical. I think
Okay.
just once, maybe twice.
Okay.
And which boggles my mind because, I've seen them bring in chicks who can't strip a firearm. Like they don't,
Got it.
yeah. I mean, they're good stunt chicks, maybe, but also, it's not what you know, it's who you know, right? So,
Got it.
but I remember hustling, which is essentially hustling is going on set pre-COVID. You would walk on set.
Okay.
You'd have to get on set and kind of weasel your way there to meet the stunt coordinator and give them your resume. That's basically how you got work
Okay.
before COVID.
Got it.
So stunts has always been word of mouth. It's never been agent run or anything like that.
Okay.
So it is who you know, literally. And I remember hustling this set, and it was for a heavy. It was a TV show, but it was heavily all tactical. And
Okay.
I knew the girl that actually ran a lot of the tactical stuff. So I walked up on set and I was like, "Oh, I know X, Y, and Z, and we're good friends." That's how we met, through firearms. And he says, "Oh, that's great. Well, can you give me your resume?" And I gave him the resume. Never called me once. And but he called many of my male counterparts who have zero background with firearms.
Oh.
Zero. And cool, like whatever. But it was just kind of, or mine, and I'm like, man, like, what year are we in? Okay, we're allowed to, like, shoot, we're allowed to be in the military, we can vote, and you,
Right.
it's okay. But I think for the most part, with directors and producers, if they're calling for scenes and military people,
Right.
unless it's written in the script, one female or two females, they
Right.
will just have dudes.
Got it. Got it. Okay.
But the first film was actually up in Connecticut, and it was very, very, very low budget. It was like a friend project.
Ah.
Um, but it was my first time working with like real stunt people who were like legitimate stunt people, and it was amazing. It was so much fun. It was so much fun. And it was just such a great crew because I started my stunt career in New York.
Oh. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So now you've hit some interesting points here because I know a lot of women struggle with this in a lot of different industries. And you telling that story there, which is really great here, and overcoming a lot of those hurdles here, because I think this will help a lot of the female audience here. Is how is it you navigated around those types of things here, where you feel like you're being not, I want to say stonewalled, or maybe getting overlooked simply because of your gender, and but still achieving your dream and still moving forward and not getting discouraged here and still able to
Oh
make
yeah.
those contacts and network and you know yeah, because
Yeah.
this is your dream here, and can't let certain things like that discourage you. But yeah, I'm just curious at how the mindset that you approach it as that really helps you. Yeah.
Well, I know that everything that's meant for me is meant for me, period.
Right.
Right. And nobody's going to be able to take that away from me.
Mhm.
And I'm a true believer that your life happens through you, not to you. So it is up to you to write your own story. And I I have always been relatively positive. So I always do my best. I've always tried my best to. I always say it like I'll find the silver lining, even if it's just rhodium plating. Right, I'll find it.
Hmm.
Um, and if I didn't get called for a job, or if everyone's getting hired and they don't have the same expertise that I do, but then they got the job, maybe because of X, Y, and Z. I don't know, but
Right.
oftentimes, I'll look back. There was one particular job that came up, and all these people were getting hired. This one girl got brought on for fight scenes. And she didn't even fight. She didn't even do fights. And she
Oh.
was like, and I was just like, hello, like, no, okay, cool. And then I found out from many friends,
Okay.
they were like, this was a total shit show, and I would not go back. They called them back for reshoots, and they were like, nope, I'm not going. Like,
Oh.
they turned money down because it
Wow.
was so dangerous, and people were doing stunts that they shouldn't have been doing because they wrote things on their resume. Like, so, a lot of times
Okay.
it's been a rejection for my protection.
Okay. Okay. That's a very good
Yeah.
concept. Good way to put it. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So now let's get to some of the great parts of it here. So have you like I'm sure you've met a lot of great famous actors and actresses and things like that. And what was it like meeting your first big like A-list, B-list celebrity and like oh my you're like, oh God, I'm on set right now with this person. I've seen this person on TV so many times. Like, you know. So how did that feel? Like when you started seeing
That
him?
was cool.
I was like,
That was
okay.
cool. I think the main person, I think the first one I met was The Rock.
Ah,
Yeah, that was like the big one.
okay.
And that was on Fast 8, the Fast and Furious 8,
Yeah, okay.
whatever. I don't remember what it was. We call it Fast 8. So uh, meeting him on set and just seeing him work, I remember just like, wow, he's a big dude. And then meeting his stunt double, his cousin, Tana White,
Right, right.
who I was just like, wow, they look so like it's a perfect stunt double because he looks just like
Right.
him almost. Um, and honestly, I love Dwayne. But I was just like, oh, he's got a lot more wrinkles than I thought he would.
Oh,
And it's like you forget that they're people
yeah, yeah.
and that he was, I don't know, in his mid to late 40s by that time and out in the sun a lot. Like, and he just had all these crow's feet. And I was like, oh, what? Like, it was just,
Oh my god. Oh
and I
my
hope he never sees
god.
this, but if he does, sorry,
Right.
but you're still, he still looks good. But
Oh gosh. Okay.
yeah, him, and I remember seeing the other guy on that movie, the one, he's brown skinned. I can't remember his name though.
Okay. Tyrese.
Tyrese?
Yeah, 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 the singer.
Was it, is that the one that's on there or is it
He's
the
yeah,
model?
he is on there as well, along with Ludacris, because they're
Okay,
all
so that's
in.
who it is.
That's Tyrese. Okay.
Okay, Tyrese. Okay, because I always got Tyrese and the model Tyson mixed up
Ah, okay. I got you.
because they
Okay.
kind of look like in the face. They're both pretty, and it was
Okay.
Tyson,
Okay.
Tyrese. Anyway,
I'm gonna
I
take
remember
you.
seeing him on set
Okay.
and kind of being shocked at looking at him too.
Oh.
I just didn't expect him to look the way he did. I just was like, because the Tyrese that I remember,
Right.
think he was like six pack, fit,
Okay.
muscular. And then
Okay.
I saw him on set and I was like,
Oh.
"Hmm? Oh, I was like, okay, okay.
Oh.
You look like a regular person. Like, that's cool." And the
Oh.
same thing for, um, gosh, what's her name? She played Catwoman, the recent Catwoman, the Halle Berry.
Oh, Holly
When
Berry.
I met Halle Berry, she walked into, because we were all training and she walks into training and I was like, oh, and I was like, oh, really? Like, she was like a regular chick.
Right.
Wasn't exceptionally beautiful or anything, just looked like a regular chick. And she
Gotcha.
was short, which is normal to me. But I was just like, huh, you just regular old chick. That's pretty cool. Like,
Yeah.
it was just,
Right.
it was nice. It was
It
nice to
is.
see she didn't come in all done up, no makeup. I was just like, cool.
Gotcha.
And also, you're late, but, you know,
And I totally understand it because my first experience living out there, and I went to Gold's Gym of Venice Beach to work out, and I understand what you're going through. And literally, I was just happened to be doing shoulders, and Arnold Schwarzenegger is on the machine right next to me, and I was like, "Oh, it's Arnold," and I was like, "Okay," and I didn't really get the starstruck, but when I thought about Arnold growing up as a kid, seeing him as Conan, and then I'm seeing him now, I'm like, oh, I was expecting maybe he'd be a lot taller, but I was
he's
taller
shorter
than
than
him,
you.
right? And I was like, okay, well, I'm not saying I'm short or anything because everybody tells me like me being 6'4", like
Yeah.
is me being tall,
He's,
but
I think he's only 6 foot.
yeah, he was only like 6', 6'1". I was just like, okay,
Yeah.
all right, gotcha.
Yeah.
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 So, but it's interesting though. And then when there was one time my families came out, we took a trip to LA, and this was before I moved there. I think almost like 2005, 2006. So it was me, my mom, and dad, and we're riding down Sunset Boulevard, and we hit the red light, and my mom's sitting in the back seat, and she's looking out. And I told my dad, we were both, I was driving, and my dad was in the passenger, and we looked to the right, and there was Mike Tyson walking down the street. And literally, my mom has never seen a celebrity ever. She literally rolls her window down and yells out the car, "Hey, Mike!" And I was like, "Mom, really?" So super starstruck. Like, I was like,
I love it. I love it. Oh, mom, good mom, dude.
"Oh, right."
She's so cute.
Oh my goodness. But yeah, so and it only reason how I picked it up it was him because I saw the tattoo right here.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah,
so but yeah, you're right. They're just, normal people like us,
yeah,
right. But when you see a camera in front of them all the time, it's just like, yeah, totally get it. Definitely.
yeah.
But I will say one celebrity that definitely was like really took me back was when I met Lou Ferrigno and the original Incredible Hulk. And I was like, when I met
Yes.
him in person, I was like, I see how you landed the role. Because he literally is literally, you see him in person. At that time, I was just like, okay, you still got it, buddy. You could still run this role. Like,
Yeah, he's a big guy.
he's a big guy. So,
And you're a big guy. So for
right.
you to say that,
I
it's
say
like,
you're a
yeah.
big guy, and I'm standing. Right. So, I was like, okay, all right, I'm okay, Lou. All right, I was definitely impressed. But yeah, he was in great shape. I was like, okay, all
Yeah.
right. So he's taking really good care of himself. So, but yeah, so I'm thoroughly fascinated at you achieving this dream here. So, where do you see yourself in the next 5 and 10 years down the road with this? What do you want to? Okay, now that you're walking in your dream now and you're doing this now, where do you see yourself going with this? What's your next
I would
step?
love to be running things. Like I've done a couple projects where I was the stunt coordinator.
Okay,
Um, and it's very, oof, it put me, it humbled me
okay,
big time. The stress
mm,
is, well, it also depends on the team that you're working with. So I will say that.
okay,
The first film I did where I was the coordinator, I was ready to just smack everybody, everybody. And then the second one
okay,
was a wonderful, beautiful blessing that was in LA. That was the most recent one. That was Clutch.
okay,
Everybody on that cast and crew, not one argument, not one giant ego trip, no pride.
okay.
It was incredible.
Oh yeah,
And we got everything done. We met the time. It was, and it just won at the LA Film Festival, so it's great.
okay,
Um, so I would like to be doing more stunt coordinating, or and there's so many different departments. I just reached out because I did Sinners.
okay.
Um, and Sinners, I think, is going to open a lot of doors for me.
Good,
Um, yeah, because I made a lot of connections,
good.
and I talked to the people that were doing pyro because I've done pyro.
Okay,
I've talked to the people that did the armoring, because they did the guy that was armorer on set. I was like, oh hey, we were talking, and we have a common friend because I've done armorer as well on set,
okay,
on a few sets. So not necessarily being the one hitting the ground for the next 20 years, but
okay,
even even kind of merging and back into acting a little bit is cool.
okay.
And I kind of just quote unquote give it to God, right? Or whatever saying you want to use on that one. But I'm still putting the work in, and I'm still like making the connections. But
Okay.
yeah, I think Sinners was actually a huge, beautiful blessing for me because it wasn't meant to be my job.
Congratulations.
Uh,
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, it's great, and people love it, and I'm super excited about that.
Because it was
And Michael B. Jordan
Oh yeah,
was cool. Like,
nice.
when I first saw him on set at rehearsal, I was kind of like, mm.
Okay.
But because he was very just business, just matter of fact. Maybe he was tired. I don't know.
Gotcha.
But when we got on set, because we rehearsed for about a week and then we shot for, I would think I was there for 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay.
And then when we were on set and we were shooting, he was beautiful. He was kind. He was fun. He was lighthearted. Ryan Coogler was amazing.
Nice.
I didn't know how to take him. You know, he's from LA. He's
Okay.
from LA and he talks, and when he talks, I was like, I didn't know where he was from. And I was listening to him talk on set and I was like, I know this accent, but I don't know this accent. I was like, where is it from? And then when I heard where he was from, I was like, ah, yeah, yeah, okay, now I get it. Yep, yep. And he truly, genuinely cared about people, which was really nice on set, especially from a director.
Right.
For the stunt people specifically involved, you know, where there was no pads on the ground or anything like that, you know, it was all timber, right? And so it was some serious hardwood that we were falling on. It's an old like barn
Gotcha.
that they had built, and they had not imported, they had brought in, I guess imported, but not. It's not swanky importing. It's like we're gonna take a backhoe and dig dirt up and dump it on this sound stage. So we had all this dirt that they had brought in from outside, and I have a couple pictures from set, and you can just see the dirt in the air.
Okay. Whoa.
And yeah, like the first couple days, I was coughing up black stuff.
Oh, interesting.
It was gnarly. It was gnarly. And they had these little nose filters that you can stick
Okay.
right here on your nose.
Ah.
And they're skin colored. And I put some on for a couple days. And within, I don't know, hour and a half, it was
Right.
black.
Whoa.
Just black. And yeah, like the air, like, and I remember it saying to the medic, you know, could I get something to a mask? Like I'm having trouble breathing because
Got
of
it.
the dirt.
Got it.
And Ryan personally came up to me. He's like, are you okay? Angela, are you okay? And I was like, oh, I didn't want to make a stink. I just wanted a mask. I was like, no, I'm okay. He was wonderful. And he's a big advocate. You'll like this. He's a big advocate of fitness. So on set,
Okay.
we were in between takes and I was over there and I was like up in a plank and I just kind of lowered myself down. He was like, okay, Angela, I see you. He's like, let's go push ups. I was like, shit. All right. So he's like, 10 push ups. Let go. Let's go. Let's go. I was like, now I'm in front of everybody and Ryan Coogler's calling me out. So I have to do push ups. So
Got
I'm
it.
just like, okay, let's go. 10
I
push ups.
love it.
It was great. It was a lot of fun.
Got
Everyone was wonderful. The girl I doubled was very humble and she's the sweetest thing. She's a country singer,
it. Right.
beautiful voice. And everyone mistaked her for me and me for her. And, you know, the whole time pretty much.
Okay.
And she was great because, you know, like most actors want to try their action.
Right.
Right. And we always want them to try it. If they want to try it, cool.
Right.
Some of the actors did because they didn't have to hit the ground.
Okay.
I was the one who had to really kind of hit the ground.
Okay.
I think almost out of any of the female, well, there's one other girl, she had to hit the ground, but out of the major doubles,
Okay.
I had to do a hard fall, a couple of them. And so I patted her up and we let her run it. Right. And she came to me, she's like, look, I'm not built for this. I'm gonna let you do this. I was like, I can dig it, and that's why we're here, right? You
Right.
don't have to get hurt because it definitely smarts.
Right.
It's not. You feel it. You know you hit the ground
Right.
15 times the next day.
True.
So she did some, and I loved it that she tried. I love that.
Okay.
But she was like, "Girl, no, you can do this. Enjoy. I'm gonna go sit in my trailer." I was like, "I would too."
Yes.
Absolutely. If I was in your shoes, I maybe someday I'll get to the point where I need a stunt double too. I'll be like, "Yeah, you go do that. I don't want to fall anymore." Like it's good.
I love it. So let me ask you this here for upcoming actors and actresses who want to get into the industry. And I know there are some actors out there like that do their own stunts. Is this something you recommend? Or is it, or would you be like, what? Definitely, if you're going to do this, definitely hire the professionals, and just protect yourself. Or what is your take on that?
So for the most part, a lot of, well, yeah, do their own work if it's not union, and it can work if it's a low budget movie. Um, but unless you're training as a stunt person,
Right, right,
being able to just, if you're an actor and that's what you want to do, cool. When I got in the industry, they said you cannot do both, pick one, period. So I
gotcha.
picked the action. Um, and I understand why, but now things are kind of moving a little differently. But, if you don't have any martial arts or skills or whatever, and you do want to at least be able to look like you might know what you're doing, it would
Right,
behoove you to
right,
take a class here and there or
right,
something like that. You don't necessarily have to be Jet Li, but at least learning how to move your body is important, because the one shit show that I did where I was the coordinator, all the actors, there were no stunt people.
okay.
No stunt people. All the actors did their own stunts. And oh my God,
Oh,
it's, oh my God. Uh,
oh,
when I saw the clips of the whole thing when it was done and dusted, I
oh, oh,
was just like, whatever. It's not my monkey, not my circus. Like, it's not my film.
gotcha,
So whatever. But I was like, please don't put my name on that, like, at all.
gotcha.
But yeah, a lot of actors, because they had no skill whatsoever. One of the actors cracked the other one right in the face,
Ah,
right hook, just pow. Oh, yeah. It
oh,
was just, yeah. So if you are a martial artist, or you are somebody who's like a gymnast or a dancer and has the mind body connection,
right,
and if you want to be an actor or an actress and you have that mind body connection,
right,
then pretty good. That's a pretty good chance that you could kind of toe the line, right? And you could kind of maybe do a little of both.
right, right.
Um, but if you only have acting, then just stick to that and just maybe take a little bit of classes here and there to learn how to just look like you know what you might be doing, and then
Gotcha.
allow them to have stunt people come in and do it.
Okay, okay,
Absolutely.
okay.
Yeah. Because, like, what's his name? Tom Cruise.
Right.
Like, yeah, he does his stunts, but yeah, he's the producer. It's his money.
Ah, gotcha.
He can do what he
Okay.
wants.
Right, right.
So he breaks his leg, everyone's out of work for 6 weeks until he heals.
See, I got you.
But, so if it's a major actor
Right.
and they just want to like haul off and do their own thing and they get hurt,
Right. Mm-hmm.
then
Mm,
what? Then we got to halt production, and time is money.
true. Very true.
So that's where that comes in.
Okay. Okay. Now, I'm glad you give me that perspective here because, okay. You answered a lot of my questions. Definitely did. I love and I really appreciate you sharing that because this has been a very interesting field that I've always been curious about because we all go to the movies, but we don't think
Right.
about you guys in the background. Like it's this is a time for you guys to shine and put some light on this. And
Yeah.
because I think
Yeah.
people really need to know more about what goes on behind the scenes.
And
Um,
we finally we're going to have an Oscar. Like, there's going to be a stunt category, which is huge. Huge.
about time.
There's never been a stunt category ever.
That's great. Okay, that is great because literally, I'm some of the stuff that I've seen, like from a lot of action movies, like the Fast and the Furious, like we talked about, like cars doing them somersaults. Like I know it's not Vin Diesel in there when them cars is doing that stuff. Like, but yeah. So now to really shed some more light on this is yeah, I really wanted to. Yeah, definitely
Yeah.
talk to you about that.
It's a huge jump for us. It's a really good thing because we always had our own awards.
Okay.
We have Taurus awards, and
Okay.
it's just stunts. But
Okay.
yeah, we've been fighting to have recognition, and I think a lot of it comes with not all. Some actors want people to think that they did their own stunts.
Hmm.
And I'm
Interesting.
like, oh yeah, I've seen people speak on TV or whatever and have interviews talking about they did their stunts, and I'm like, I know you're double.
Well, we won't call them out on this, but yeah. Yes, never good taking credit for someone else's work, but right.
No,
So, but I did want to ask you this though, because this is a part of Hollywood that was just very interesting. So, a lot of these actors and actresses, when they do the sex scenes, are
mm,
they really doing it, or is that really stunt work, or is
no. So
okay?
we have what's now called, and I've done this, intimacy coordinating.
Oh,
So I've done intimacy coordinating on a couple films, and it's essentially stunt coordinating, but for intimate scenes. Um, and it's all, well, not all the time, but depending upon the kind of movie, right, and the level of what's being shown,
right.
you can have implied sexual scenes
Oh,
with just like a really super close shot of just even faces and just movement
oh,
and sounds. So like, I remember doing an intimate scene, a couple intimate scenes on a film in Texas. And it was a sex scene, and they were essentially fully clothed because we
oh.
had a really tight shot,
Okay,
just pretty much from here up.
got it.
Right. So she had on like a little bandeau bra.
Got it.
Everything was covered. He didn't have a shirt on, but
Got it.
whatever.
Right.
But they had pants on and everything. Like they were pretty much fully clothed.
Okay.
And all it was movement. And I'm there to make sure everyone's comfortable.
Okay.
It's just movement and it's intensity, and it's just them acting. And then then we're going to shoot some audio, right? We did some like what we would call it ADR, but they're just kind of sitting there and they just have their mics, and everyone left the room. And I stayed behind.
Okay.
I turned my back,
Oh,
to let them just feel more comfortable talking, because they were just talking and making noises.
got it.
So I just, I just had to be present to make sure everyone was comfortable and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, I do believe sometimes things may go far, but that's never happened
Got it.
on anything that I've known personally or
Got
been
it.
on.
Okay. 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 All right. Because I've, we've all seen those in, movies and things like that. And I was just like, is this really stunt work? Or are they really doing? Because I did see in California recently, they changed some of the laws regarding just sex in movies, and I think they started like some productions have started going to Nevada because of how some of the laws have changed. I don't know. I just kind of that's why I was like
Yeah.
really,
Yeah. And hence
interested.
like the intimacy coordinating and stuff like that, like
Right.
hand holding. But we have things that we use for the women too. Like we use panty liners.
Okay.
If it is a nude scene, like you'll have like nude colored panties and put panty liners.
Uh,
So like there's no feeling,
got it.
right?
Uh,
Because some women are just not comfortable with that,
right.
and it's essentially going through it like you're going through a fight scene,
Got
but
it.
it's breaking it down, talking to both actors and being like, okay, there was like a makeout scene in one of them, and the girl, she's married.
Mm,
And I was like, look, you don't have to make out. It can be very intimate if you're just kissing them here and
mm,
then here
mm-hmm,
and then here,
mm-hmm.
and that can be intimate too. It's all about how you act it and play it. You don't have to like
Right.
be making out, and it can be lighthearted. So
Okay.
they switched it, and
Okay.
it's just same thing like a fight scene. I'm gonna create the fight scene based on the person, based on their build, based on whatever's happening, using every angle, but maybe fist and then wrist and then into elbow and then shoulder, and then like, and it's a dance. It's the
Right.
same idea.
I see. Okay. All right. I
Yeah,
got
yeah.
you. All right.
So yeah, I think that's a big part of the whole sexual.
Right.
Things have gotten a little wackadoodle, and especially with after the Rust thing with the firearm, and then
Right.
the thing, and
Right. That was a very
Yeah.
interesting story because I was like, I didn't even know they were using real guns on set until I heard about that story.
Well, okay.
Okay.
Yes, they are not all, right?
Okay.
We have, it was a prop, but I
Okay.
think when people hear prop, they
Mhm.
think it's a rubber gun.
Okay. That's
No, a
yeah.
prop could be, I have used props that are decommissioned firearms, right?
Okay.
They might just not have a firing pin, or it's a fully functional firearm.
Okay. Oh.
But
Okay.
I'm so overprotective. I'm like, this firearm does not leave my hands
Hmm.
and go to anybody else's hands but the actor and then straight back to mine. And it never leaves my eye line,
Got it.
period.
Got
And there's never ammunition on set. Like there's never live ammunition, period, point blank, ever. And
it. Got it.
all of that was just a big cluster from pretty much start to finish.
Got it.
But yes, just because it is a prop does not mean it is not a fully functional firearm,
Okay. Got
or
it.
at least in the past. Now, sometimes people, yeah, but me, I'm just super meticulous and for the most part, just use airsoft.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
All right. Well, here's the last thing here I'm going to ask you before I let you go here, because I thank you for your time here and doing this podcast.
Always anything for Mac, anything for Mac.
Yeah. But the last thing I want to ask you, so I know you've been starting writing a book here and going trying to be a writer, and I wanted to really talk to you about that, and what is your inspiration behind doing that, because that is you know yeah and
That, oh, gosh, well, my wonderful friend Mac helped me do that. And he helped me start my LLC. Um, but in all honesty, my inspiration was honestly the change that happened within me over the past 6 years. Um, and it's uh, it's changed my life. And I want more people to be able to experience that. And I want people to be able to live the life that they dreamed of, and understand that it's really not that difficult. It takes hard work, yes, and it takes some deep, rigorous honesty with yourself and some digging and some introspection, but like it can be achieved. And I would love, like, the outcome is like I would love that people could read my book and really learn how to take accountability for their life and their choices, and therefore, like, in their past leading up until now, obviously. And then once that's there, then they understand that, you know, I am here today because of every single choice I made.
yes,
Right? It has nothing to do with you, has nothing to do with anybody else on this planet but me.
right,
And as soon as I can take accountability and understand that I have created the life that I'm living right now,
right.
I can create whatever I want for tomorrow.
True.
So that's kind of what's inspired me for the book. And you really are the producer, the author of your own movie,
You are.
right?
You really are. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, you know what, Angela? First things first, I will say I'm proud of you because you are a very, I love hearing stories of people chasing their dreams and actually living it. We all sit back and dream, but when
Yes.
you get to the live part, and that is huge. That is because and I see the look and the happiness on your face, and that is awesome. And I really am glad to see that. And then, but also, this is what I totally wanted to ask you as well. So I got you on here now. Angela is a world traveler. She has traveled places as well, and we're going to talk about this for a little segment here because so New Zealand. I have never been to New Zealand. I've done Australia, but I have not done New Zealand. So, and you have done New Zealand quite a few times. I've seen, So, what is this fascination with New Zealand? What brings you back to go there so much?
So I have what we would call whānau, which
Okay.
is like adopted family there. I have family there.
Oh, okay.
And I have friends that a couple friends that I actually grew up with who live there.
Okay.
Um, and have acquired many more friends
Okay.
and over the years. And I remember being there and I don't remember at what point, but I was like, I'm home.
Okay.
And it's something that's so different. And my mom and dad up north, they're on the North Island and they're up north in the Northland and they're in a place called Moirewa.
Okay.
I never had a dad,
Mm.
right?
Right.
So having a dad, it's it's almost like divine restorative justice.
Okay.
And it has been such a huge gift. And he
Mm.
taught me how to chop wood. Like he teaches me how to be a farm girl because I'm a city girl.
Right.
Um, and yeah, it's just it's in me. It's a part of me.
Okay.
That's and my family is there, and so it's hard to have people who I love so much across the globe,
Right.
and then my mom in DC. Like I'm trying to figure out how to marry the two and just
Got
like
it.
somehow flip the world or something. I don't know, but
Right. Right.
yeah, I often it's funny because I often try to keep it to myself almost because I don't want people to really know about New Zealand. I'm like, stay out of New Zealand because like there's, enough people already and just leave it as sheep, but I
Right.
can't gatekeep, but yeah, it's part of who I am.
Okay.
It really is like to a soul level.
Nice.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
yeah.
And it runs very deeply for me.
Okay.
So yeah.
Oh my gosh. I will say travel will do that to you. You're going to go to places that's going to connect with you differently than others. And the
Yeah.
impact is very different. It really is.
Hmm.
And it's nice and it's beautiful to hear when, you make that kind of connection with an environment, you know. And I know it's done that to me, over the years. So yeah. But well, Angela, I will say thank you so much for this. And ladies and gentlemen, and if you're in LA, if you want to learn how to work on your self defense, martial arts, if you want to learn firearms, or if you want to learn how to do stunts and getting into the industry, she is definitely the person to reach out to. Wealth of knowledge, great individual to know. But yes, definitely do. And this is what, like I said, this is what this podcast is all about here. It's just really just wanting to inspire you all to chase your dreams. I know making that sacrifice to do that, I know it's hard. We all get in the comfort and the security of the
Hmm.
familiar, of just waking up, getting a paycheck, and then we know when it's coming. But is it giving you the fulfillment that you're looking for? Are you waking up feeling happy and feeling like your true self? Or are you just doing it just to pay bills? And I think all of us have grown up having dreams and wanting to chase them. But I'm hoping that, this episode today, inspires you to really just sit back and think about that. I want that for all of you all. So, like I said, I'm your host, and Mac Harvey here. Learn more about me. You can, check out my books as well on Amazon, Barnes and Noble. But yes, Miss Angie, thank you so much, and for coming on here. And I'm looking forward to hearing more movies that you're going to be in. And she is also, like I said, she's a stunt double in the latest movie Sinners that's out in the theaters right now. Go check it out. I've heard great reviews. I need to go and watch it myself.
Me too. I haven't seen it either.
You part of making it, haven't seen it. Oh my God, that's great.
Nope.
Uh, well, Angela, enjoy yourself while you're in Hawaii. And
Thank
yes,
you.
okay. We'll talk
Thank
to
you so much for having me on. What a delight. I love you. I love you. I love you to pieces. And it's,
you.
I'm always proud of you.
Thank you.
Watching,
Thank you. Thank you.
to be
Likewise.
close with you.
Yes, it's been truly a blessing knowing you all these years. Oh my God. And yes, and just seeing what you're doing and where I've seen where you come from, it's awesome. I'm very proud of
Thank you, Matt.
you, definitely. All
Look, I
right.
have
Well,
nails. Like I'm a
I
girly
know you
girl.
got nails. Oh my God. She's all grown up. I love it.
I know.
I love it. I love it. Uh, all right. Well, have a good night. Well, anyway, for you, Miss Angela, have a good evening because it's still early
Yes.
out there. But yes, but have a good
Yes.
night, everyone. And yes, thank you all again. All right. Bye.